Welcome back to the Make Account Podcast.
I'm Marcus Mire, founder of Mire Group CPAs and the Total Control Accounting System.
And I'm Tyler Warner, small business owner with a lot of accounting questions. In this episode, we're doing part 2 of Why Xero.
That's right. I'm not sure why we had 2 episodes in between, but...
Yeah, suspense.
That's right. Keep them...
Yeah, exactly. Building a lot of tension.
Wanting for more.
Exactly.
That's right.
There's more to cover. I mean, Xero is a big platform, obviously. It's very fundamental.
Yeah, I think when I was listening back to the episode, and one of the things that struck me is, we try to keep the podcast 20, 25, 30 minutes. And one thing we didn't talk about was cash flow and the lifeblood of a business and specifically getting paid. And so that's what I want to really hit upon today is how Xero has transformed getting paid for lots of people. And look, there are other software that can help you get paid faster, right? QuickBooks can do it. I know FreshBooks, a lot of people like kind of solopreneurs or consultants use FreshBooks because of their ACH feature. But we're talking about Xero, so we'll kind of get into that specifically about how it helps you get paid faster.
Yeah, get paid faster. We talked a little bit about bill pay the last episode, but we can kind of talk about those things. And then the tool that we shouldn't overlook too, was just in their mobile app.
I think we'll get into Xero, the mobile app, and then we'll also talk about Xero Expenses, which is like an expense management kind of I would say a scaled down expense reimbursement platform. Okay. So, which a lot of people really, it's kind of one of those things where if you have too many bells and whistles, people don't use it. But like Xero's app and the expense management or expenses are really good in that they're not overwhelming and they're easy to use. And so we'll get into that a little bit as well.
All right, cool. Let's dive in.
All right, so let's talk payments.
Tell us how to get paid.
Yes, I know, right? So one of the big things that I always mention to people is, and the first kind of symptom I see of like just kind of a chaotic back office is that people invoice. Man, I see this more than I like to see. People invoicing from spreadsheets, Word documents, PDFs that are apart from their accounting software. It's almost like they think, well, I'll just do the accounting, and when I get a deposit, I'll say that's revenue. Right. But I'll keep track of my expenses and all that. But I don't do my invoicing here for some reason, which baffles me. But the beauty of invoicing in Xero is that you can connect the payment service. And so what I mean by that is you can connect very easily in the Xero software, what they call in-app Stripe, which is their preferred payment processor. Mm-hmm. So you could have Stripe set up literally in about 10 minutes. And what that looks like is when you get an invoice from somebody that has Stripe, somebody that has a Xero file, when they send you an invoice, has a big green Pay Now button. And you can even see if you preview your invoices how that comes across on mobile, because Xero gives you the preview of what it looks like on a desktop or on mobile. Yeah. It's awesome. And it allows you to get paid faster. And so what I tell a lot of people is, you may not want to pay the credit card fee, which is a valid, I hear that all the time. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's a cost of doing business and a convenience I like to offer. Yeah. But you can even automate that in Stripe. When you go to set up the Stripe settings, you can say, charge the credit card fee back to the client. You can even automate that process of, hey, I don't want to accept credit cards, but I'm doing it as a convenience, but I don't want to pay the fee. Well, I can automate the chargeback of the fee right in the Stripe settings. Yeah. And so I think the stat we keep going back to, as we read in Xero's blog, is that people that accept credit cards and ACH get paid 50% faster. Sure. Like, there's no question about that. Yeah. Like, we looked at our AR the other day, and it was, I think we get paid in under 11 days. It was like 10 point something. Yeah. And so for us, we even think that's high. We want 0 AR, right? Sure. But to get paid in 10 days, pretty dang fast. Yeah. Like, a lot of business here, if you're listening, is probably thinking, shoot, we get paid 30, 60, 90 days. Yeah. It's because you haven't given a frictionless payment method. And I think that's exactly what Xero does. So you can take it with Stripe, generally with a credit card or ACH. But then also another Xero partner that they're really pushing is Go Cardless. And that's an ACH platform. Yeah. And so if you don't want to be charged the fees of a credit card.
And some of it's unrealistic too, depending on your business. I mean, if you're I just think, we work with a lot of oil field service companies where, it might be $15,000 invoice.
That's right.
People aren't paying that with a credit card necessarily, but you are ACHing.
Yeah.
Is that a verb?
ACHing. You sound like the guy on the Progressive commercial. Was I hashtagging?
Yeah, exactly.
No, for sure. ACH is a viable option. And what I like to do is I like to connect both payment services. And then in Xero, what you do is in your invoice template, you just tell them what payment services you want to apply to that template. So our standard template has the Stripe credit card and the Go Cardless ACH. And so when a client goes to pay us, they get to choose. Now, we don't charge a credit card fee back. And so a lot of people take that option because they get points and whatnot. But in fact, I was just looking at my email. I saw a Go Cardless email come through. Somebody paid us with ACH. And so that was a $2.25 fee, I think, it was a little $200
invoice. You pay that fee or they pay it?
We pay the fee.
Yeah.
And so, but that could have been $6 on $200.
Right.
3% roughly. But those ACH fees get capped. So they're not a percentage. They're a percentage up to a certain point, and then they're capped. So the beauty of that is that you can give people a much more simplistic way to pay you, other than go and get a check and going it through accounts payable and that whole deal, and get paid faster.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, just as a little asterisk, but I mean, worst case scenario, you get paid with a check. So you get a check in the mail.
Right.
It's still nice, because that happens to me.
Yeah.
It's still nice to have it all recorded and everything in Xero. And you can still mark, okay, I got this. And when you deposit that check and then the bank feed pulls it in, you can match those.
Correct.
And it's all nice and tidy in there.
Yeah, I think the overarching theme amongst payment services is the first part is the foundation. Have your invoicing in one place in your accounting software. Don't do it in a third party or a spreadsheet or a Word document or a PDF or whatever you do. Have it in your accounting software. That way you can pull up a quick report. Who owes me money? How long has it been outstanding? Or pull an AR aging report. Also, you couldn't run an accrual set of books if you didn't have your invoicing, and if you were just recording invoices when they got paid, you couldn't see what have we billed this month, without some effort.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've shared this story before, but basically, I mean, there was one point in my business where it was somebody's job to just run a report. It's like, okay, if it's 30 days overdue, then we email them. If it's 45, then we email and phone call.
Right.
If it's 90 days, we show up with a bat or whatever.
Right, of course. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, no, but that report was helpful to to know. All right, we gotta.
Well, I think you start to leverage. I mean, like I just mentioned, one of our KPIs is what's called days sales outstanding, and how quickly we're getting paid. You can't do
say that one again.
Days sales outstanding, basically. An AR turnover, we start to be able to calculate these
day sales.
Yeah, basically how much. So if you took a year and said, what do I do in sales per day, and then you look at your AR and divide your AR, you basically divide your sales for the year or whatever period you're measuring by the AR at that point. It tells you how many days of sales are outstanding.
Okay.
So those are metrics you want to run. You want to know, man, we got 60 days of sales in there. Let's get paid faster.
Yeah.
But you don't know that if you don't have your AR and your sales data in your software. I mean, let me back up. You could do it,
sure,
but it's not as easy.
Right.
And so I think the point people need to leave with is make it. First of all, invoice and have your data in one place. That's also along with all of your other accounting data, your bank transactions, credit card, and all that stuff. But then make it easy for people to pay you. I know you send me invoices because you use Xero, and I get it on my phone. I can just tap pay, and it uses my Apple Pay. I've got my American Express for my business connected.
Right.
How easy is that? You're giving people a very quick, easy, frictionless option to pay you. In that example, you're not charging the credit card fee back to me, so you're paying 3%. But my guess is it's a cost of doing business, and you like it because it gets you paid fast.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think people that conversation needs to be had about how easy am I making it to pay you?
Yeah.
I think everybody's probably experienced this. They get a service or they buy a product, and they have to call the service provider. Hey, are you going to invoice me? We talked about that on the last podcast when we bought those cups, and the supplier was like, yeah, our account is just too busy to do invoicing. And I'm thinking to myself, what more important thing is there in your business that is taking precedent over getting paid?
Yeah.
So if you have those things in the way, at least make getting paid easy.
Yeah.
Don't make it a chore.
Yeah. And we talked about this in part one about the Xero being a hub and there's being all these apps that can connect. I'll just say this before we move on from the invoicing side is the invoicing is part of that philosophy of open connection with other apps.
Right.
So you can build an entire workflow, and I think you've even done it here where there's a proposal sent out, the proposal's accepted,
Absolutely.
that acceptance automatically can generate an invoice, that invoice can be paid, it's automatically documented,
Right.
reconciled. I mean,
Man, I'm getting excited.
yeah, then you can have a Zapier triggered like a onboarding email.
Oh, no, it's amazing.
So you can literally automate your like
Whole thing.
the whole deal because the invoicing piece is now part of that.
Yeah.
That same tool set of like, no, let's connect all these services and tools.
No, that's a good point. And one thing I didn't mention, one thing you'd also be leveraging with a payment service that's connected properly, which is very simple to do. I do it with lots of clients. The accounting gets done behind the scenes. So let's just work a very quick example where you're not charging the credit card fee. You bill somebody $1,000, they pay you by credit card. Let's just assume that's a 3% credit card fee. When they pay, behind the scenes, Xero marks that invoice is paid. So accounts receivable goes down and cash goes up, or a clearing account goes up, I should say, by $1,000. But then it also automates that $30 fee in the setup of Stripe. You say, hey, when I get charged a fee, where do I put it?
Yeah.
Then you can say put it to bank and merchant fees. So behind the scenes, you're not even doing any accounting. You don't have to go back and say, I got paid for that. Wait, what about the 30? That's all done for you.
Yeah.
With the setup, which literally takes 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know that's a real world example for me because I just got that set up.
Yeah.
And years past, I can remember going back and having to everything at the time it might have been PayPal or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Right.
everything going back and saying, okay, well, no, that $24 was actually not revenue.
Right.
It was, or not an expense. It was for whatever. You just explained it. I'm already confused.
Right. You had your revenue understated by the amount of the fee.
Yeah, exactly.
And and there's nothing worse than that.
Nothing worse. It was humiliating, frankly,
of course.
to walk in here and just
Tail between your legs. So I think if you could leave with something, get your invoicing all in one place, leverage the tools, and then as Tyler said, let the automation and those features be your friend. We won't get into what he's talking about, which is our quoting software, but yeah, basically that ties into what we're doing, talks to Xero, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. That's Practice Ignition. Shout out to them. We love it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Xero App. So as I was saying this to you before the show, the Xero app is just good enough to where you use it. And what I mean by that is it's not so overwhelming with all these features that you're like, oh God, I'm not going to use this. Like for me, perfect example. I was getting gas this morning. And when I get the receipt, I pull up my Xero app. Literally in the 10 seconds before I leave the gas station, I snap a picture of the receipt. And there's a screen where it kind of walks you through who'd you pay, what'd you pay for, what account, snap a picture, tell us the amount, save. What did I just do? I then recorded auto expense. I recorded that my credit card balance went up. I had the receipt is now attached to that transaction in Xero forever until I remove it, and I've done the accounting. So now what happens? When that transaction feeds in from my credit card, I just match the two. I say match, Xero's going to match them because it's going to say, hey, you told us you spent $80 at the gas station. Here's an $80 charge on your credit card. These are the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a big green OK button. You just click OK. Yeah. Done. Like we're telling clients where they handle their accounting or we're working with them, if you at least do that, that is huge because it's so easy to do. And once you get in the habit of it, it literally takes 30 seconds. I did it at dinner last night. I had the name of the client I went to dinner with across the top of the receipt, snap the picture, done in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Can I ask a question I probably should have asked a long time ago?
Sure.
Why not just wait till it hits the bank feed?
You could, but you don't have the receipt attached.
Okay.
And I think that's the beauty of it is that if you ever need to go back and look at why did I spend, what did I spend, or just have an audit trail.
Sure.
No, but you're exactly right. You could just let it feed in, code it in. Now, when you let it feed in, if you don't have a bankroll applied, you still have to do some data entry.
That's how I do it. Now I'm a low key. I mean, it's basically a freelance business.
Right.
It's not. Doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Internal audits, who spent what,
Right. But so, I like the receipt. And I will tell you this. In my firm, which we've talked about this a little bit in other podcasts about a culture of accountability in terms of fraud and managing misappropriation of funds.
Yeah.
receipts attached to every transaction from the perception, I think, of your team and your staff, I think is great.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh crap. If I put in a transaction, like if I'm the employee that wants to embezzle funds, I put in a transaction and I don't have the receipt, it's going to stick out. So for me, it's twofold. It's quick, it's easy. I get it done at the point of sale.
Yeah.
And it's also that accountability factor of every transaction has a receipt.
I'm a part of a organization where I have to turn in receipts. So, because they do operate with that, like account everything, and they'll reimburse you, but you have to have a receipt.
Right.
And I mean, if you spend 10 cents on something and there's no receipt, it's like, well,
sorry.
Sure, and I get it. It's good.
Yeah. Great.
So.
No, we love it for that. But to your point, yes, you could let the transaction just funnel in, code it in. But I like just having it where it just click like a one click. Okay, boom. And I got the receipt.
Yeah, this is real in the weeds, but does different banks have different timing on the bank feeds?
No, I think it's more or less how you access the bank feed. So Xero has direct connections with big banks, think your Capital Ones and Chase of the world. But then they have a middleman called Yodlee that's a third-party middleman that helps you connect with your more local small bank. So I think that's more contingent upon how you're actually accessing the data. It's direct feed, which comes in daily, or Yodlee, which I think is the next day.
Yeah, okay. But that's still fair, giving people that expectation that's with a day or
correct.
two.
Oh no, it's not. It's not much of a lag. And then also in the Xero app, you can invoice, you can create bills, you can reconcile transactions. So John, who works for us, I got a quote from him in one of our newsletters about the Xero app, and he basically said, like, I was stuck at the DMV, but I was still working. Like I was just when in a Xero file, I was just quickly coding some things that I could do on the fly, and it was just like, man, I didn't have an hour wasted.
Coding just meaning
like reconciling the transactions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The bank feed that everybody's used to.
This went to meals. This
correct.
went to office expense.
That's right.
This went to
Yeah. So that's a nice feature too. But you can do a lot. I always mention that kind of the on the site service provider. I think this is great for a plumber, electrician, landscaper, like to just be able to go to your truck right after you handle a service and just send somebody an invoice real quick. I mean, done. And then or tell them, hey, or if you have an iPad or something, hey. I'm walking out. I'm just invoice you real quick. Just check that you got it in your email, and they get on their email, and they maybe have Google or Apple Pay attached to their phone. Boom, you're paid. You're done. You don't have to go back to the office, send an invoice, wait to get paid by check. Like you can speed this stuff up quickly. And so I was kind of led the Xero app conversation about the expense side of capturing expenses, capturing receipts, but the invoicing side's great.
Yeah.
And really, and again, just enough to where it's not overwhelming and you can do it easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Anything else we talked about? You mentioned earlier the expense. What was it called?
Xero expenses. So you can bring your staff in for. So if you have staff members that go out and either spend on the company credit card or they need to get reimbursed, Xero expenses is a great way to do that. Same kind of concept where they have to submit a receipt. They can submit mileage requests there. It's just and it's starting to get pretty sophisticated where it knows where you spend. I think it'll attach the Google map of where it was. So just lots of features to help you.
So where does that live for them? Like in their app?
Yeah. So Xero expenses is you get that I think you get that in the highest level of Xero subscription, which is what I always forget. Xero has early, growing, and established are their three plans. I think it's in the established plan, which runs about $65 a month. Okay. But you get Xero expenses, which is handy if you've given company credit cards to staff, but you don't want to bring them into the Xero file to see all that data and limit them there. You could just say, hey, I'm adding you to Xero expenses when you're out, entertaining clients or doing this. Just snap a picture of the receipt there. That way we do the accounting for it. It's one less step for us. Or if you spent on your credit card, whether maybe you booked a flight or something like that, you can request a reimbursement and it shows up in our Xero files and accounts payable. Okay. So it's really cool for expense management from the employee side, whether they're spending company money or they're spending their own money.
Gotcha. And so they would set up basically ACH, or they just...
So yeah, what you'd have to do is then that bill would come in. So if it's somebody requesting reimbursement, like if you said, okay, I went to a conference, you said you'd pay for my lodging, here's the lodging receipt, I paid on my own credit card. That's going to come into Xero and create an accounts payable. And then if kind of what we talked about in the last episode, if you had a connected bill payment service like we use Routable, that bill is now waiting in Routable to be paid. And assuming we've set up Tyler Warner as a vendor, which is easy. Or if we hadn't, we would just send you from Routable a link to onboard and put in your bank account information. We'd pay you using Routable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I think, and then a few other things Xero has we haven't talked about is they have a file system. So Xero has a dedicated email address that you could use if you wanted to just email documents. It's a very arcane string of character email address that they give you. It's unique to your Xero file where you could email stuff and it would show up in your file box. Not a lot of people use a Xero file system, but I always mention it to clients because it's unlimited storage. It's also in your Xero file. So it's just nice to have if you want to store sensitive documents there, maybe related to your financial.
Yeah. Is that something that's collaborative in the sense that, like, because I'm thinking a practical use case might just be keeping all the accounting documents there.
Yeah, it is collaborative to whoever you give access to it. So like
if your CPA
correct.
is part of your Xero file.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. You could give access to it and we could go in and look and you could say, hey, all the bank statements are there. Just go grab them there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So I would say an underutilized tool of Xero, but one that's definitely there.
Yeah.
So check that out. And I think that's it. We've kind of covered end to end using Xero, why we like it, and yeah.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway is the potential that it has.
Yeah.
Compared to other systems.
Yeah.
If you really want to geek out over, like, you can leverage it to the max.
Yeah, and like you talked about, we hadn't even gotten into like using Zapier and other things to connect tools.
Yeah.
And we talked last episode about the app marketplace, but just Google Xero App Marketplace. I think there's over 1,000 app partners that do anything and everything that you want. And it kind of, like I said in the last episode, which is why I'm glad Xero doesn't try to be all things to everyone. They offer a great platform, which is what they're trying to be. They want to be a platform that you then say, hey, I have this really specified line of business. I think the last episode we gave was a caterer or like an event planner that used HoneyBook. That's a great client-facing software. They do it better than Xero in terms of client-facing with scheduling and all that kind of stuff. So use them. Connect it to Xero. So lots you can do with the platform.
Yeah. Good place to end it there. Yeah, if you need more content, there's tons of it available at Mire.group. We've got all the previous podcasts posted there and some other content. You can reach out to Mire Group there as well. And yeah, Happy New Year.
All right, we'll see you next time.